Hello, and welcome to The Foundation, a Parks People podcast, presented by the National Association of Park Foundations. And now, your host and Executive Director of the National Association of Park Foundations, Kevin Korenthal.
Welcome back to the Foundation of Parks People podcast. We are coming to the end of 2024, another fantastic year for parks and recreation across this great country of ours. We have had tremendous growth here at the NAPF. We have brought on a lot of new members that we are working with either to create or build capacity within their existing park foundation. And that's exciting because park foundations are a wonderful way for communities to close that funding gap that is ever being stressed by budgets that are ballooning under the rising costs that municipalities must deal with in social services, police, fire and life safety. All of these things are getting more expensive to deliver, not less. And using philanthropy in parks to close those gaps is just it's a solution that a community that is not currently have with a park foundation should consider setting one up. We like to say at the NAPF, if you don't start the park foundation, someone else will. And it's important as an agency that you have a park foundation. And hey, if your park foundation is struggling or if you're looking to build capacity, come look us up. We love a chance to talk to you about what's going on and see if we might be able to help you. But the podcast here is to talk to folks around the community of parks and recreation. And one of the folks that has contributed mightily to the mission, vision, and values of the NAPF is one of our strategic partners, Court Reserve, that has been along for the ride ever since the first time that I met Ashley. We got along great. She completely understood what we're trying to do here at the NAPF. And I think not coming from the pickleball or racket sports world, could see around me and in listening to others that racket sports, whether it be tennis or pickleball or some of the other hybrid sports that are coming along, it's very, very easy to see that these sports are a growth place for parks and recreation. So joining me today, I'm very excited to introduce Ashley Owens, and she is the co-founder of Court Reserve. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about what I was kind of leading off there with and about this explosive growth. Tell me more about where this growth is happening and where you see it going in the future.
So Court Reserve, we started in 2016. So we've been around for 8 years. And 8 years ago, no one was ever really talking about pickleball. We were all talking about tennis. And so in the last 8 years, this sport, we all now have heard about pickleball. And now even padel is growing not only here in the United States and in Canada, but around the world. So there are more and more people, more ages that want to get outside. They want to play a sport. And what we are seeing at Court Reserve is all of these communities and parks and municipalities are now having such a purpose in choosing software to handle the opportunity that they can provide this to their community. It's a great thing for people to be active, and it's a great way for these park and recreation facilities to have a software to help control and be able to prove the point that they need additional courts. They need funding for parking. They need instructors. They need all of this. And that's what software and data do for them.
So you're really seeing the tech as I think many sectors have experienced. You're seeing a growth in the technology is providing data.
Yes.
That is then alerting these park and recreation officials to where they need to talk a little bit more about that. What type of data are we talking about here, and what are the findings that are coming out of it?
So let me give you an example. We have a tennis coach that we've known for years through a local tennis certification program, RSPA. They used to be known as the USPTA, and they recently name changed this fall or rebranded. And so this local tennis instructor has been a certified tennis instructor and a contractor for a Parks and Rec locally up in the New England area. And so for years, she's built relationships with parents on tennis and now pickleball. And what she is doing is she's having to manually keep up with all of her bookings, right? She's having to manually keep up with every time somebody needs a lesson. Okay. Well, then what happens is she's got now more and more people playing these sports on the courts. Well, she's having to go to her local municipality and say, hey, I'm having to prove that I need more time on the court to teach more people on the court so more people can play these sports. But now she needs more courts because there's more people playing. She needs to be able to have court time to teach on these courts, which the city has given her permission to do. And so she's actually using Court Reserve, a basic software, to capture how many students per week she's teaching, how much court time she's taking, how many other players are asking her to have classes or clinics. And so what these municipalities in her area are doing is they're also using a software so that they can prove the point that we have, a wait list of people trying to get on these courts, which would prove that maybe we need to build a couple extra courts, right? So the data is, well, first you have to go have good, clean data, right? You have to have the system set up correctly. But the data proves the point for so many different reasons about why we need to invest in our local parks and recreation centers, because not everyone can go and join their local country club or a club, right? And so the local community centers, well, that's what government's best at, right? They provide the local community this access. And so they need the data to be able to prove their point. We've saved tennis courts because of data. We've saved pickleball courts because of data. And we've actually shown the need. Don't tear up a court and make it something else, because you hear in the pickleball space, oh, those tennis players, they don't need that many courts. We need their courts. So you'll have areas that will go and take 2 tennis courts and resurface them into 6 or 8 pickleball courts. Well, we have actually used Court Reserve data to save tennis courts and just have recreation facilities invest in building new courts for the pickleballers, because the tennis players, we can prove still use them.
Well, and I think the data supports that while pickleball is a very quick growing sport, tennis still far outreaches in both terms of court spaces and players. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I've been hearing. People probably wouldn't attach their name to it, but the suggestion that there are altercations that occur, that pickleball players are especially aggressive when it comes to their court space and their court time. And we've talked a little bit about how Court Reserve is kind of one of the opportunities that a municipality or a park and recreation agency might utilize in order to cut down on those interactions, possibly.
Oh, yeah, because in Court Reserve, we actually have something called a combo court. So in the software, you have a base tennis court, and then you have 2 or 4 pickleball courts that in the software live on top of that tennis court. So if I, as a pickleball player, book court 1, well, it books court 1 on pickleball, but it also books the entire tennis court, right? Well, that still leaves, 1 or 2 more pickleball courts on that same tennis court to be booked. If it's during tennis time, then that tennis court books, and then it automatically books those 4 pickleball courts. Well, Parks and Rec can actually set restrictions in Court Reserve to say, okay, from these hours of the day, tennis people can make reservations, and for these hours of the day, pickleball people can make reservations, but they're using the same court, literally. And so using that software, that capability actually makes everybody happy, right? Because they know when they can book the court, when it's accessible to them. And then you have good data to see, hey, look at the utilization of pickleball versus tennis. And then maybe one day, instead of, making everything just pickleball, we can actually build new courts to sustain the growth of what we need.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that is a great way to be able to utilize excess capacity in one area.
Yes.
Whether there's peak hours for tennis players or peak hours for players of pickleball. I wanted to turn now to kind of talk to you a little bit about my members and what, as far as the products and services that you're involved in, but more the sports industries that you liaise with. There's a lot of growth in the private pickleball space that we're seeing that probably every community can see these centers popping up around their community or see them advertised on television and radio. What do you think from the perspective of my volunteer park foundations they need to know about racket sports in this era?
Well, there's a lot of great organizations that offer the ability to teach them about racket sports in general or paddle sports. So you've got the, RSPA, the PTR, the PPR. There's a lot of those organizations who do
Now you're throwing out
certifications.
acronyms there that most people probably aren't going to know what they mean. So I ask you to make
Yeah,
sure that you give
sure.
us the full name.
Sure, sure. So it's used to be the United States Professional Tennis Association, the USPTA. They've rebranded to RSPA, and I think it stands for Racket Sports Professional Association. That just happened in September, and if I got that wrong, you could still look it up. PTA is the Professional Tennis Association, and they also PTR. Sorry, too many acronyms in our industry.
Yeah.
So PTR is the Professional Tennis Registry, and then PPR is their sister company, the Professional Pickleball Registry. So as far as like your local, members, your volunteers, they have they have websites where you can go and find local certified coaches. These are those local coaches teaching in your Parks and Recs community. These are the ones that have taken the time to go get certified, safe play through USTA to make sure that they have everything they need in order to teach young children all the way through adults. Those are going to be your local ambassadors to teach your volunteers and members about what's happening in the local community when it comes to parks and rec and sports. I highly recommend both of these agencies just to get an understanding. If you have never been in the racket sports industry, there's a lot of acronyms to start, but you just don't know what you don't know. So I would definitely start there with those organizations. And then for tennis, I mean, we've got the USTA that's located down in Orlando, great organization. They are great because they are fully purposefully interested in helping communities move forward in tennis. So they have grants that are available to build tennis courts or to update tennis facilities, especially in the public parks and rec space. They're a great organization to also reach out to as well.
Yeah, and they run the National Junior Tennis League, the NJTL, which is a banner and probably the poster child for youth diversion from crime. And I think
Mhm.
every community, especially as you get more urban, and I think the Williams sisters were, obviously motivate a lot of young men and women in minority communities to get that, hey, this might be our sport. Maybe it's not just this sport or that sport, but here's another opportunity for us to shine as a community. And I think using those sports as an opportunity to teach fair play and good
Mhm.
sportsmanship and
Yes.
values, as well as a skill and an outlet, a physical activity that someone can go to. I love sports that I could fly anywhere into any part of the world. And I can look up on the internet where there's, for instance, I'm a swimmer. I can find a pool. There's a pool somewhere that will allow me to go to do laps, right?
Yeah.
And I think tennis is another, and racket and other racquetball sports, other racket sports, I think are similar in that capacity. And I'm really super interested in your thoughts on how do we continue to grow the youth segment of these? I mean, I think pickleball is kind of was originally associated. Maybe it's not as much anymore with senior citizens, but how do we breathe more youth life into these sports?
Well, from what I've seen now, I think it's all about showing that tennis and pickleball and these racket sport professions are a profession to get into. For years, I believe that in the tennis industry, if you were just a tennis coach, it wasn't necessarily something that you could take home and show your father that now you're going to be a tennis coach for the rest of your life as a profession. And that's not correct. I mean, we know coaches all over the world that teach tennis and pickleball, and they make, a great living, a great salary doing this, and you're investing in lives forever. And so I think number one, the young teenagers of today who like being outside and love playing sports, it's a great profession to get into. There are some new professional tennis management college programs around the country that are popping up. And young kids love to be taught by young kids, right? And so, again, getting more young adults into this profession that does do so much for people. I mean, we always remember the coaches that made a difference in our life. So investing in those young adults to take this on as their profession. So number one, we need more coaches
Mhm.
because we need more people to decide that this is what they want to do with their life. So I would say that's number one. And then number two, tennis and pickleball, these racket sports are not in a lot of educational athletic programs for elementary school and middle school. I did not even have a tennis court at my school until I was in high school. And that was in North Carolina. So, having the local schools have the ability to teach these other sports, it goes back to athletic directors and everything, giving kids the ability, because if you watch, tennis and pickleball can be played by any age from young to when we're older, right? And especially tennis. And I've seen people go back and forth. It's very, especially in the tennis and pickleball world, lots of people have played tennis for years. Now they're going to play pickleball because maybe now they can't run across the huge tennis court. But now the USTA has come up with the red ball adult tennis program. So this is a decompressed, larger ball that floats through the air a lot slower than a regular yellow tennis ball. And it comes with a racket that it is so easy to pick up any adult, any age, and play red ball tennis. So again, I think it's investing in things like that. So, tennis clubs around the country, if you want to get some of maybe your other members, your golf members or your swim members, to try and take up tennis, get with the USTA and get their red ball adult program. They'll actually send you the nets, the gear, the balls to participate and to get more adults playing tennis as well.
Well, and I'll tell you, my father-in-law, Bill Wood, recently competed to third place in the 65 plus category nationally. That makes him a ranked pickleball player. And this is a man who is above in age and has a new knee he got a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it goes to show you, I mean, it is a sport that I think does, and he was originally a tennis player back in the day. So there is that that synergy that you're talking about. So I wanted to bounce something else off you, kind of out of left field, that I've been thinking a lot about, and it comes down to, what do I see as, my role in Parks and Recreation when it comes to being an advocate for a lifestyle that includes being outdoors, it includes being with other people, your peers, with competition, with physical exertion. And that is what I think we're beginning to see that we learned from the COVID era. One of the things that we saw, there was two stories that unfolded under COVID that I thought are so diametrically different to each other. We kind of going to have to make a choice as to which one we like. On one hand, we saw a huge surge in the use of outdoor recreational space. Many communities reported, and several communities were doing trail counts at the time. So they had both pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID numbers. And not only did they see an explosion at the beginning of COVID of the use of their trail systems, it didn't really let off after everybody went back to, for the most part, normal lives. And we saw this through all of the different recreational spaces that were, and this is the second point, not closed. So this was the other side of the way that some folks, and I won't name names, decided to use COVID as an excuse to shut down their facilities and prevent folks from being able to go outside where COVID isn't as likely to be transmitted, by way of throwing sand on skate parks, locking up basketball hoops, arresting surfers and folks out at the beach. So now we have this. We saw that folks, when the shutdowns happened and they were forced with all this free time on their hands, went out there and tried to make the best use of our recreational facilities. That's what I think we want to promote. What are your thoughts as far as, I mean, is my analysis too stark? Am I making too much of a deal of this? I'm a little angry with those folks that locked the parks down.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, when COVID hit and we lived in North Carolina at the time, we played pickleball in our garage. Because we were not allowed to go and to even play tennis in our local park, which we had been very successful at for many years, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we learned a lot of great lessons about what it does to humans when you lock people, around and don't let them, live their lives basically. And I know that, even wearing masks and things like that, I had a hard time with that, to do that. So I think that now we're on a great and purposeful journey because so many more people now know what it's like to be outdoors, know what it's like to have community, know what it's like to have their meetup group or their hiking group or their walking group or whatever that looks like. And I think if we stay positive, I think we're just going to continue to make great trends towards, making our parks and rec space even better. I mean, here in St. Augustine, in Florida, which is where Tim and I live, they just shut down building like a new hotel chain of like 300 and some rooms in a local park over here. We don't need more hotels. We need to keep our parks and our national reserves open and free so people can go and enjoy them. So I think people are pushing back. They know now what's important. And I think that that's a very positive thing for me.
Yeah, so time always goes by so quickly in these conversations. So we're coming towards the end of our time together, but I did want to have an opportunity for you to, because I think the more times that folks are, come in contact with Court Reserve, the more it begins to make sense. Give us again your, that kind of short elevator speech on why folks should consider talking with Court Reserve.
Well, we are an all software for any club or facility rec space that people will need. And it's been built by the pickleball and tennis clubs that have used Court Reserve over the years. So it wasn't that Tim and Ashley built all of this. It's all the ideas and, administrators and directors saying, hey, I've got a tennis club and your software is great, but can it do this or can it do that? That's how it's been built by all of the colleagues of all of our tennis and pickleball club and facility owners and managers in the last several years. So that's what makes us very unique. It's very customizable for any facility, whether you're one court or 100, like the USTA National Campus. And we just love people. We love to serve people. We love to help people get the best out of the software and teach them how to use it so it can work best for their business. And we just love to talk about tennis and pickleball too. So even if they don't need software, they can always chat us up about what's going on in the tennis and pickleball world.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, the companies that are going to be successful are the ones that are taking data from their user groups, their customers, and implementing those suggestions into what they do. And that's where I think, the NAPF has been powerful. Is that, my background in trade associations is so diverse. I've worked in fire and life safety, construction, financial services. I've represented companies and individuals in various different areas, and it's caused me to look at the world differently. It's caused me to think of things in synergy. How does one thing apply to the other? How does a solution for one company, what if we made that a solution for others as well? And I see that that's what Court Reserve is built upon, is this idea that we don't have a perfect product. Our product is ever evolving according to the needs of our clients and our customers.
Yes, that's exactly the way we think about it.
Always a pleasure, Ashley. Thank you so much for your time and coming on to the podcast. Everyone out there, if you're not already subscribed, please do that. Share this with your friends. We don't have nearly as many followers on our channels as we should. And by the way, we are on all of the podcast applications out there, and obviously you can see video here on YouTube. My name is Kevin Korenthal. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Park Foundations. I am truly blessed to have the job that I do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ashley. And we'll see you next year.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning into The Foundation, a Parks People podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the-NAPF to not miss an episode. To help this podcast grow, please like, comment, and share with your friends. Have a great day.